The guy was on the run 16 years. The FBI didn't do that great a job if he was able to avoid them for 16 years and he was on the most wanted list. So if they want to brag about it, hey, it's all right. It took them 16 years, but they got him. So the question is, why did they put him in that West Virginia facility? It was a bad place to begin with. They know the notoriety that he had. He had a reputation as being an informant, and you put him in a notoriously dangerous prison, I should say, like the one in West Virginia. That in itself didn't make sense. Hey everyone, welcome to another Sit Down with Michael Franzese. Hope everybody's doing well. All is blessed on this end, and as always, we give God all the praise, honor, and glory for that. Today I'm going to do something on Whitey Bulger, another very polarizing figure, and the reason for that, we've all talked about Whitey, but because recently 3 people were indicted for his murder. And it's 4 years later. He was murdered 4 years ago in prison in West Virginia. There's been a lot of controversy around it because he was such a controversial figure, so well known in that area, that genre. Allegedly an FBI informant. I'm sure many of you have seen The Black Mass, where Whitey Bulger was brilliantly portrayed by Johnny Depp. Everybody knows Johnny Depp's been in the news lately. And by the way, I think Johnny's making a comeback. He's producing a movie, from what I understand. He's got some other offers, so after that whole kind of messy trial with Amber, I think he's getting his life back together. So that's good to hear. You always want to hear when people are on a comeback trail, and it seems like he's a likable guy. I don't know him, but a lot of people have a lot of good things to say about him. So good for you, Johnny. But he did a good job playing Whitey Bulger. The makeup was terrific. It was a very dark film. Kind of, I even got a feeling walking out of there. There was no likable characters in the entire film. Well, I didn't know Whitey. I don't know how well he was portrayed. Interestingly enough, when he got arrested in Santa Monica, where I used to live. And he used to walk up and down the 3rd Street Promenade, which is a shopping area in Santa Monica, that I was there so often. When I saw a picture of him after he had been arrested, I could swear that I passed by him a couple of times because he used to walk up and down. It was a nice street to hang out in. He used to walk up and down there. So I think I recognized him, probably bumped into him or walked past him, who knows. But at any rate, he was murdered in prison 4 years ago, and they indicted 3 guys for the murder. I think 2 of them were doing life sentences already in that West Virginia prison. It was a federal prison. The question was asked, why did they move Whitey Bulger, who was such a, again, polarizing figure? Why did they move him to that West Virginia facility? Why did the Bureau of Prisons, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, move him there? It was a notorious prison. It is a notorious prison. They had several murders there in the year that Whitey was murdered. It's a dangerous place, a lot of lifers there. And whenever guys are doing life in prison, and they don't have much to live for, they have nothing more to lose, those are the guys you got to worry about. Remember, in prison, John Gotti was beat up. Why? Because you can't throw your weight around in there. People that are doing life and have nothing to live for, you got to respect them. They don't care who you are. What are you going to do to them? You're going to end their life? They're probably happy. What do they got to live for in there? A 6x8 cell that they get in and out of, and it's tough, let me tell you. So you got to be respectful in there. I always said, my father, always taught me 3 things. He said, son, one day you're going to do time. Let me tell you 3 words that are going to help you out tremendously in prison. Please, thank you, and excuse me. And he said that because everybody in prison, or so many guys in prison that never got respect on the street, want to be respected in there. Because all they need to have respect from is other inmates. Not like they're out finding a job or they're trying to get their lives going in society and, the real world. So in there, they only have to impress other inmates. They want to be respected. So how do they do it? They think by being a tough guy. So you bump into somebody, oh, excuse me, didn't mean that. You don't want to, just excuse me. You want to cut somebody on a line. Please, do you mind? This is a friend of mine. Do you mind if I go ahead of you? Okay, usually they'll say yes. And then thank you. Somebody hands you something, somebody does something for you, you say thank you. Three words that go a long way in prison. You can't be a tough guy or act like a tough guy. Sooner or later, it's going to catch up with you, especially in the state institutions, but in the feds also. So anyhow, he gets convicted. They find him after 16 years on the run. 16 years, It was funny. I was on a Geraldo Rivera show right after Whitey got locked up, and there was a young FBI agent there, and he was bragging about how they locked up, Whitey Bulger, how the FBI gets their man, and all this kind of stuff. And he was bragging. He was a young guy. And so Geraldo asked me, Michael, what do you think? I said, well, listen, the guy was on the run 16 years. The FBI didn't do that great a job if he was able to avoid them for 16 years and he was on the most wanted list. So it was just a mistake by his girlfriend that actually got him arrested and got him identified, and they found out where his whereabouts were. So, but if they want to brag about it, hey, it's all right. It took him 16 years, but they got him. He goes to trial. And he gets convicted, I think, of 11 murders and, 30 counts of racketeering, some crazy thing. And he gets, life sentence after life sentence. I think he got back-to-back life sentences. God knows how many. What's the difference? You get one, that's it, right? So he goes to prison. He's in a wheelchair, from what I understand. He's old. Then they move him to this federal prison in West Virginia. And he's there 24 hours, one day. Now, I don't know if they knew he was coming in or what, but he's in general population. And while he's in general population, a couple of guys, they have video footage. They wheeled him to a place where nobody could see. He was out of the sight of the cameras. And they bludgeoned him to death. They had a lock inside of a sock, and they just beat the heck out of him. I hear he was unrecognizable. That's how bad they got him. And, so the question is, why did they put him in that West Virginia facility? It was a bad place to begin with. They know the notoriety that he has. I mean, they don't like notoriety normally in the Bureau of Prisons because they don't want no trouble. They want people just to do their time. They don't want no trouble. They want the least work they can possibly have. They don't want to fill out papers. They don't want to have to answer questions. They don't want investigations. They want no trouble. So the easiest thing for them to do would have been to lock down Whitey Bulger. So we don't have to worry about anything. He had a reputation as being an informant, and you put him in a notoriously dangerous prison, I should say, like the one in West Virginia. That in itself didn't make sense. So a lot of people are thinking, hey, you know what? The government hated him so much because he was on the run. He made a fool of them that they put him in there purposely knowing that he was going to get killed. Is that possible? Listen, I wouldn't put anything past the government. I'll be honest with you. And I think today's day and age, we're seeing so much. I wouldn't put it past them. Is that very likely? I don't think so. As a matter of fact, the family, Whitey Bulger's family, filed a wrongful death suit for that very reason. They said they knew he was going to get killed, or they knew he could be put in harm's way, and they put him in that institution specifically for that reason. I don't know. They lost the suit. A judge dismissed it, but is there any truth to it? It certainly gives you room to think about it. You put it past the government? I don't know. I wouldn't put much past them now. But I also understand that the Bureau of Prisons does make mistakes. There's no doubt about it. There were incidents where they let people out of prison before their time. It was a mistake. It happens in court hearings also. They release a prisoner who shouldn't have been released. So they do make mistakes. Nothing is perfect. There was an incident, I told you, when Henry Hill was moved into Terminal Island. Henry was on separation from just about every mob guy, unless that mob guy was in the witness protection program and also another informant. He was on separation for all the other mob guys in the federal system, myself being one of them. But he appears in population in Terminal Island. And our eyes caught each other as he was walking out of the cafeteria. I think I told you what happened. I got called in from the lieutenant because Henry went and reported it. Henry PC'd up. He locked himself down. But the lieutenant at the time said, hey, we're going to have to move you out of here because Henry is here and you can't be in the same place. And I said, hey, there's 15 other guys in here, mob related. You're going to move us all? Move Henry out of here. It was a mistake from the BOP. And it was a mistake. They didn't want Henry to get killed. It was a mistake. He PC'd up, he locked down, and then they moved him out. So they do make mistakes. Now, in this case, I don't know, how do you make a mistake like that? This is a notorious guy. It's all over the place that he's an informant. And you put him in one of the most violent prisons in your system. They just so happened to be one of the guys who they indicted for murder was from Massachusetts, where Whitey Bulger was from. He was a Boston guy, and he was indicted for the murder. And allegedly, he had ties to New York mob guys, specifically to the Genovese crew. Immediately upon Whitey arriving, supposedly this guy doesn't like rats, doesn't like informants. He gets together with another guy in there, and they kill Whitey Bulger. So it doesn't sound right. Now, these three guys, two of them are in jail doing life. Do they care if they get another life sentence? I doubt it. It was more important to them to take care of Whitey Bulger. Maybe it was a favor that they were doing for somebody on the outside. Maybe they just didn't like the fact that Whitey Bulger was an informant and they just wanted to do the job. Who knows? I don't know what the situation was, but it seems that they should have never put him in that institution, obviously. Didn't work out. It took him less than 24 hours before he was murdered. They indict three guys. One guy, I think, was on parole on the outside, which is interesting. Was he in there at the time of the murder? They indicted him for conspiracy. There's a number of other charges along with the murder, first-degree murder indictment. So I think we're going to find out, what really went on here, or as best as we can, through whatever evidence the government has. But did somebody, make the order on the outside? I do know this. I do know that there was bad word on Whitey Bulger. I do remember that back in the 80s. Bad word on him. I think he was giving information about the Italian guys, about Raymond Patriarca and that whole crew. There was a bad word on him. We inquired about him. I remember at the time. I never had anything else to do with it. So was word brought in from the outside to do this, or did you just say, we're going to do it on our own? We'll have a feather in our cap. We're doing life anyhow. Who really cares? We'll get to go to court a little bit. We'll get to see the outside world. Who knows, what guys are thinking about in there. I'm telling you, when you're doing a life sentence, you don't mess with those guys because they got nothing to lose. The worst person to have to deal with is somebody that has nothing to lose and they're your enemy. You don't want to deal with that because there's no reasoning, really. They got nothing to lose. What are you going to do to them? And that could be very well the case right here. So anyway, we'll have to follow the trial. I'm sure it'll be coming up shortly and see what comes out of it. But just interesting that they finally did indict somebody. It took them 4 years to do it. The government sometimes works slow in these investigations. But, again, just to reiterate how the Bureau of Prisons, could have made a mistake, understand something. Bureau of Prisons they don't want any additional work. Government workers normally are like that. Just let them get by. They don't want to do additional work. They don't want to go out of their way. Normally, they can't be fired. They just want to mind their own business and do their job easy in there. I'll never forget, just comes to mind, there was a time when some politician, I forget who it was, went public saying that all the weight rooms in the prisons system should be removed. Why? What was his reasoning? He said because they're creating, quote, super criminals. Super criminals, that guys are going in the weight room, they're getting buffed up, and when they get out, they're super criminals and they're more dangerous. Now, there was no research to back this up. There was nothing to support anything that he was saying. It was just insanity. And the bill was actually passed. He got it passed. He had people believing that super criminals were being created on the inside. The Bureau of Prisons was mad about it. I said, wait a second. The weight room is one place where these inmates go and knock themselves out for a couple of hours every day. We don't have to worry about them. They're not getting in any mischief. They go and work out. They come back. They get tired. They go to sleep. They wanted the weights in there. And so they kind of fought back at the time, from what I understand. And what happened was they didn't remove all the weights. If they were there existing, they stayed there, but you weren't allowed to replace them, and you weren't allowed to put them in any new institutions. That's how it finally worked out. But so the Bureau of Prisons was mad about it. They didn't want that to happen because they were, again, looking for an easy time. Don't give inmates idle time. When they have idle time, they get in trouble. Let them go in a weight room. Let them knock themselves out. So that's why I kind of believe in this situation that it was probably a mistake from the Bureau of Prisons, that they didn't put him there intentionally. They didn't want him to get killed. It was just a mistake, and they do screw up at times, So that's my take on it. But we'll see. Trial's coming up. I'm sure we'll hear some stuff. We'll cover it here a little bit, if there's anything of interest. But we'll find out a little bit more as to what happened. We'll see if they're going to say that it was ordered from the outside and one of these guys took care of the business on the inside. We'll see. Anyway, we'll see what the government has in way of evidence at that point in time. So that's it for today. We are back, and we got a lot more content coming up. We're doing a lot of work. I got so many things going on this fall. It's really amazing, and we're going to try to share a lot of it with you. My inner circle, stay tuned, because we've got something big planned, and it's going to be unveiled pretty soon. You're going to enjoy it. If you're not part of my inner circle and you want to jump in, michaelfranzese.com. Take a look. It might be for you, maybe not, but I think if you get involved, you'll enjoy it. Our TV series is almost on the move. I'll have some word on that pretty soon, and it's going to be exciting. So we're excited to hear that. The stage play we have on my life, that's coming along good. It'll be premiering next February. Just a lot of great things going on. thanks to all of you that support me, and we don't forget that, and we certainly do appreciate it. So that's it for today. How do I always leave you? Same way. Be safe. Be safe, ladies. I can't emphasize it enough. We're living in a dangerous world, and it's sad, but it's true. Be safe. Be healthy. Try to keep yourself in shape. I'm doing the best I can to do that. As always, I really mean this. God bless all of you. And yes, I'll see you next time. Take care.